I'm Amber Harrison, Director of Regulatory Affairs at VAI, Vertical Aviation International. Welcome to the VAI Flight Report. This August, the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration proposed a new rule normalizing unmanned aircraft systems beyond visual line of sight operations, or Part 108. The proposed rule will enable the design and operation of drones at low altitudes beyond visual line of sight, or BVLOS, of the operator. Drones, also referred to as unmanned aircraft systems, or UAS, will operate at or around 400 feet AGL. That's the same low altitude airspace as many rotorcraft operations. So the Part 108 rules are of critical importance to our industry. The rule was proposed to support the acceleration and safe commercialization of drone technologies into the U.S. national airspace system and to promote a strong and secure domestic drone sector. VAI supports the continued growth and integration of drone manufacturing and operations. However, that growth can't come at the expense of an existing aviation ecosystem that has been built on unparalleled safety and efficiency. Today, I want to share several key provisions of Part 108 and explain how VAI is responding on behalf of the vertical aviation industry. I first want to touch on airworthiness acceptance. It's a new concept that appears in Part 108. Instead of type certifications, the proposed rule presents an airworthiness acceptance model. This will require drone manufacturers to submit a declaration of compliance that identifies applicable standards and certifies compliance to those standards. VAI strongly urges the FAA to utilize designees throughout this process to ensure more balanced oversight. Further, the FAA must provide guidance for UAS manufacturers, detailing how declarations of compliance will be processed and accepted. Another key provision of the rule is that under Part 108, UAS operations can be conducted under a permit or a certificate. A permit enables smaller scale operations with lower risk profiles, and certificates are required for larger scale, higher risk operations. Despite carrying significant risks, permit operations are required only to have an operations manual and conduct minimal record keeping. The FAA should require permit holders at minimum to have emergency procedures and the ability to identify, track, and resolve safety issues. Also, VAI disagrees with the inclusion of recreational UAS operators in Part 108 operations at this time. The proposed Part 108 also complicates a historically clear-cut foundational rule of our airspace: which aircraft has right-of-way. The proposed rule would require pilots to use a decision tree to make that determination, often in a time frame that requires a split-second decision. VAI urges the FAA to retain the original intent behind 14 CFR 91113, which protects the least maneuverable aircraft by giving right-of-way over other aircraft. Further, we suggest the FAA consider a phased approach to relying on detect and avoid methods based on ADS-B or similar technologies. Fleet equipage by final rule release, which is expected in 2026, is not feasible. In the meantime, non-ADS-B based components, such as visual or acoustic methods, should be utilized throughout all airspace to bridge any gaps. And UAS should be required to have onboard receiving capabilities to ensure greater broadcast reliability. Finally, Part 108 eliminates the role of the Part 107 remote pilot, replacing it with an operations supervisor or a flight coordinator. Despite both roles having responsibility for and control over the safe operation of UAS, the proposed rule requires no certification or training standard for either role. VAI suggests that the FAA mandate a certification process and training standard for these positions. These are just some of the areas of improvement VAI has identified as part of our comprehensive review of the proposed rule. We've coordinated that review with our industry advisory councils and also collaborated with other aviation associations. VAI will continue to advocate with the FAA for the safety and resiliency of our industry. Enabling BD-loss operations is a major step forward in the advancement of our airspace. We want to ensure that these rules enable the success of the maturing drone sector while also driving the continued progress of our current manned operations. Well, that wraps up this month's VAI Flight Report. Please email us with your comments or suggestions on how VAI can serve you better. Until next time, fly safe, stay safe, and keep powering up.